There
it is.
All right, I am gonna kick it off. So, hi everyone, welcome to Endpoint Office Hours. I am your host, along with some amazing co-hosts here. My name is Garrett Chandler, and then we've got, let's just round robin it. We're gonna kind of call this out. So Richard, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Richard Balsley. That's it.
Go Scott.
I'm Scott Ellison.
Anthony.
I am Anthony Wallace.
And Chenille is on here too, but her video is off.
Now it's on.
She's
Hello,
on.
everyone. Good
Look at
afternoon.
that.
I'm Chenille Hall.
Hey, Chanel.
Awesome. And then our guest of honor today, Maggie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Dakeva. PM on the Windows experiences and onboarding team.
Woohoo! We're excited. So Maggie's actually here to talk about Autopilot device prep today. But before we get into that, we have a few things that we want to go over as kind of our inaugural episode here. So if you don't know most of the team that's here right now, this is us. We are all cloud endpoint technical specialists on the education team, specifically at Microsoft. So we work with customers like yourselves each and every day, and we cover a breadth of technologies around Windows and Intune and Entra and Windows 365. Now, Azure Virtual Desktop, we're starting to cover a lot of that. A few of us have definitely been covering Copilot and things related to the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So a lot of us come from EDU backgrounds or have been part of the education team for a long time. And we are excited to bring this office hours to you bi-weekly, where we can come and collaborate together as a community, learn what's new. We can share updates with you all, but also get feedback from you. So what's top of mind for you all? Things that we should know that we should escalate, or feedback that we could take to folks in product like Maggie. This is also part of the deal, is there's a topic every week that we are going to cover off on that kind of deep dive into a specific area. So with that, if you are new here, rules and etiquette ask that you do keep your mics muted when you are not the one talking. We will, of course, invite you to come off of mute at any given point. So be prepared to do so, but just by and large, stay on mute, and then use that chat section to kind of comment and chat with each other. Also, turn off your camera when our main presenter is speaking. So, for example, when Maggie is presenting later today, we'll kind of kill everyone's videos, ask that you go off of camera so that Maggie is front and center for everyone, and there's no distractions there. This is also good for the recording because we do record these sessions and then post them up onto YouTube later for viewing. So if you miss a session, all good. You can go back and watch that recording, but unless you want your face recorded throughout that and there for everyone to see, you should stay off camera. Questions, we love questions, so we want to enable you to ask questions at any given point. So the chat can get a little chatty, which is what it's supposed to do. That's the nature of it. But if you put a Q in front of an actual question, especially if it's off topic, that will help us as your co-hosts kind of help navigate that and get those questions answered when it is appropriate. At times, especially when the presenter is done speaking, they may invite specific questions from the audience, and you can use that raise hand function, and you can actually come off mute or on video if you want to too, and ask your question. And then the last note is that we have a LinkedIn group. So if you have not joined our LinkedIn group, please go ahead and do so. We introduced this last year. We have about 91 members out of the, I don't know, 600 or 700 of you that have registered for Endpoint Office Hours, join the group. So we really want to get that membership up. I know some of you don't have LinkedIn, and that's okay. I'm not forcing you to get LinkedIn, but it would be great if you did join that group. That's where we are going to post all of the content that we share. So if we have slides, that from the week that we want to share with you all, we'll post them there for you to go and get. And some of that's due to limitations of the sharing, like within the Teams team that you get added to. And then, yeah, anything I'm missing here, Richard or Scott?
No, I think the big takeaway is that we're de-emphasizing the team just because tenant switching is somewhat difficult for folks. Sometimes you'll ask a question, but then you may never come back to the team, or you may not get the notification right away. And it's been tough, I think, for a lot of people to engage. And so we're looking to use LinkedIn to facilitate not only just the materials that we send from each meeting, but also any questions that you guys might have. We're going to have a much broader focus throughout our entire team to actually post and make sure that questions are being answered within the LinkedIn group.
And I do see a raised hand, but I'm going to continue on for just a minute, and then I'll get to your question. So a quick note on the chat persistence in the team meeting. There have been some changes internally at Microsoft, and so as organizers of the meeting, we're hosting the meeting inside the Microsoft tenant, but there is limitations now on the chat, specifically around guests and external accounts, and that the chat will not persist once the meeting ends, which is very sad news. We're working on it. We're trying to figure out what the right settings, what the right approval that we need to get to enable this, if possible. But right now, this is not feasible. Huge disappointment. That was one of the reasons why we were delayed getting this invite out, was because we were trying to solve this issue. We weren't aware of it. But I think that's one of the value adds to this meeting, is kind of having that ongoing chat. But chat persistence will be broken. So you will only get chat when you are in the meeting during the active calls. You can still view chat history. You just won't be able to participate in the chat unless we're actually in the meeting with you. So sorry for that. We're working on it. We hope to find a solution. For now, let's use that LinkedIn group that we just talked about. Go ahead and join that one, and we can keep conversations there. But if you look at that post meeting and you're like, why can't I chat anymore? That's why. It's not you, it's us. And we're working on it. Hopefully we'll get an answer for it. A few things that I wanted to let you know about. We kind of have some upcoming agendas. So today we have Maggie to talk about Autopilot device prep. Next week, Richard has just a lot of ramblings that he wants to inform you on. So this is just called Richard's Ramblings. And those are always fun sessions. So we definitely encourage you to join that one. And then on September 17th, we'll have Platform SSO for macOS with Arnab, who has actually presented for us in the past. He'll be back. We've got a couple of to be announced sessions for October. And then I'm thinking we'll do another fun Halloween episode close to Halloween. So we'll update you this, and we'll try to do a better job of keeping you up to date this year on what is expected, and we'll populate that out. For the sake of time, I'm probably only going to call out one or two links here, and then we'll turn it over to Maggie as our featured guest here. But in the classic nature of Endpoint Office Hours, we like to give you some updates across the services themselves to keep you informed. And based on your feedback, y'all seem to like that. So obviously we're coming off of our summer hiatus, and we've got a lot of good stuff here to report up. So a few things that we just wanted to call out specifically around Intune. Number one, there's kind of breaking news. There's an announcement that went out, should have gone in your message center, that we are about to enforce MFA on the Intune Admin Center. And not just Intune Admin Center, but Entra Admin Center, Azure portal itself, and others. So be aware that you will need to have MFA on those accounts that are accessing the portal. That is coming up. I think the date is October 15th when that will start being enforced. So be aware of that. And then we also have
to add to that real quick. I mean, if you've been logging into your portal recently, you should be getting toast notifications.
Yeah.
Like basically every time you sign in. So this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone.
We will annoy you.
Yes, you will be annoyed.
Some of the device configuration policies are actually moving to the unified settings platform in Intune. Actually, most of them are. So that's a great blog to read up on some of those upcoming changes there. We also have some upcoming changes to deploying Windows Autopilot for existing devices, and that is a really good blog to read. Lots of great information about some of the changes that are happening there. And I can't remember the timeline for that, but it's soonish. So encourage you to read that. And then we did have
Actually,
a service.
hang
Yeah.
on. To clarify that piece, autopilot for existing devices is if you're using the autopilot configuration.json file to manage devices. There's some changes that we've made from enrolling those devices as corporate to personal. So that's what we mean by autopilot for existing devices, not devices that you already have in autopilot today. So
Yeah, I guess I should.
clear.
Yeah, I should have clarified that. Thanks, Richard. Because yeah, now that I'm reading it, that makes sense. There was a service release for July 2024 with lots of goodness. We're expecting the August one to land here shortly, later this week or maybe next week. And then we also published a great guide on Intune resources. So if you are new to Intune, this is like a one-stop shop for all the latest goodness, including documentation, videos, how-to guides, things like that. So I wanted to throw that resource out to you.
Now, hey, Garrett, just so you know, you're not sharing through PowerPoint Live. I don't know if you're aware of that, but they can't click.
Oh, epic fail.
Dan's like, oh no, I can't click the link to the
Boo.
slides.
Boo. Hold on. Let's do it like this. Oh, it's an extra click. Hang on. It's loading. It's still loading. Oh,
There we go.
let's see. Do we have something? Okay. And then it's the wrong slide, but here you go. Is it clickable now?
It should be. It looks like it. It's working.
It's working. Okay.
Okay.
See, it's like I work at Microsoft and I use Teams every day to present. Okay. Thanks for the call out there, Dan and Richard. Why don't you take this one, Richard?
Okay. The slide you made.
Oh yeah,
Windows
didn't it?
365 is 3 years old. So this is just kind of a happy birthday slide for us about how the service has grown over the years and how it's going to continue to grow. So recommend taking a look at that if Windows 365 is something that's of interest to you. And then with Windows 11, we're going to be introducing in 24H2 a new feature for checkpoint cumulative updates. Take a look at that. I don't think it's really going to impact people all that much. It's probably going to be something that's just behind the scenes that you really aren't going to, you don't have to do anything with. It's just a different way to improve the cumulative update experience from 24H2 forward. And then we're also going to, we've also posted a blog post on how to install WMIC as a feature on demand. So we're going to be deprecating WMIC from the OS, but it's still there if you want to enable it as a feature on demand. So there's a blog post on that. And I think the next slide, Garrett, should be the Entra stuff. Yeah, so I wanted to share a few different things on Entra that we don't typically talk a lot about Entra on this call, but there's some things on here that I think are fairly important if you've been really doing any automation around Entra, especially with the Azure AD PowerShell modules. As you probably know, those PowerShell modules will be deprecated, I think it's March 30th of 2025. But in between then and now, we've actually introduced a new Microsoft Entra PowerShell module that you can work with in tandem with the current Microsoft PowerShell SDK. Both of those work side by side. So you can install just the PowerShell SDK and use that if you want, or you could use the Entra PowerShell module as well alongside of it. And the Entra PowerShell module also provides the ability for you to migrate some of the old Azure AD PowerShell scripts. There's some alias mapping that they've done to map some of the old commandlets from the Azure AD PowerShell module to the new Microsoft Entra PowerShell module. So that should make some lives a little bit easier when migrating your old scripts to using the new commandlets in the Entra PowerShell module. In June 2024, in June of 2024, so a couple months ago, we put out an update on the Azure AD Graph API retirement. So this is different than the Azure AD PowerShell module retirement that's happening in March. This is for any Azure AD Graph API applications that you might have in your console, or in your tenant. So if you do have any applications that are running and hitting the old Azure AD Graph APIs, those things are going to be retired, and so there's some guidance on how to handle that. moving forward. It's not necessarily an Intune or endpoint related issue, but it kind of goes along the same lines of the stuff that we're doing with the old Azure AD PowerShell module and all this other stuff. So I wanted to throw that in there as well. There's a Windows account Chrome extension. If you didn't know this, in Chrome, you can install an extension. It used to be called the Windows account or Microsoft account extension that you could add to get SSO in the Chrome browser. So if you signed in with a Microsoft Entra ID or an Azure AD account, it would then allow you to SSO into any properties. And so we've renamed that to the Microsoft Single Sign-On extension. And it's also used for Mac OS. So if you're using Platform SSO and you want to get single sign-on with Chrome on Mac OS with Platform SSO, you can do that with this extension. So make sure to install that if you are if you're using that. We're also doing some security hardening to the auto upgrade process for Microsoft Entra Connect and Connect Health. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is you're installing the latest versions of Microsoft Entra Connect by September 23rd of 2024. If you don't do this, alerting is going to break. And so I know just personally, in my own lab, I've had situations where auto upgrade either wasn't turned on or wasn't enabled, and I'd have a super old version of Entra Connect that was just synchronizing accounts. It would work, but I didn't realize how old my version of Connect was. So validate how old your Connect is. It may not be auto upgrade if you haven't installed the latest ones in a while. And just make sure that you're on the latest versions, because if you're not, you will find that alerting will just stop working. And if there's any problems with syncing, you probably won't be aware of it because of some of the security hardening work that we're doing there. And then lastly, there was a blog post that was released this summer around empowering secure and seamless learning through multi-factor authentication without a smartphone. And so for those of you that have been asking for the ability to use passwordless scenarios with students, this is an option that you may want to take a look at. It leverages temporary access passwords, so TAPs, in order to accomplish this. Now, I understand that trying to get the TAP access codes out to your students can be somewhat challenging. It's really not that much different than trying to get a student a password. So there is a bit of a lift that you're going to have to do. There's going to be some legwork to get the passwords out or the temporary access passes out to your users. But this is something that might make it so that you could use Windows Hello for your students that typically requires MFA. So,
right. And on that note, really quick, Richard, I just threw a link in the chat too that there's a great doc out there on our education docs specifically for passwordless for students. So if you haven't seen that doc, look at that. And then I also wanted to call out that a couple of weeks ago, our MFA docs were updated, or our Windows Hello for Business docs were updated, specifically around the verbiage that Windows Hello for Business is considered MFA. And so if you have any cyber insurance, folks out there that are, requesting as Windows Hello, or if you've got that enabled for your students, by definition, Windows Hello for Business is multi-factor authentication. And it's great to see us actually put that into docs, into writing, for you to have a leg to stand on there. So just wanted to call those 2 points out because that's been kind of top of mind for some of my customers in Texas.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it's always been MFA. It's not like there's anything that's new, and it actually has been docked. It's just been very difficult for people to understand because we don't really have a cell phone associated with Windows Hello for Business outside of you registering for MFA. When you sign into the device, you don't feel like there's a second factor, but when you look at the TPM and how that interacts with it, it actually is. And so, so we're trying to make that more clear because a lot of, like Garrett said, there's a lot of cyber assurance companies that are out there that don't trust that it really is MFA, and you kind of have to go and explain to them that it is. So we're trying to help you there. And with that, I think we're ready to kick it on over to Maggie, right? Garrett, I'll let you go ahead and
the star of the show. All right. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, everyone, for indulging us a little bit there. So let me introduce Maggie a little bit. I have some fun tips before she comes on.
Excuse me.
Yes, yes.
I'm so sorry. I'm the first time I'm attending the office hours because I usually attend Microsoft 365 office hours
Uh-huh.
Thursdays. This is my first time because I'm the administrator for my university educational thing. So I don't know how it works. I thought it works just like our Microsoft 365 hours. First 30 minutes is question and answer, or is it different?
So it'll kind of change depending on what we've got scheduled. So we like to do a little bit of a kind of a deep dive presentation by folks like Maggie on the product team so that y'all can get more in-depth information. And then if we have time left over, we will do Q&A. And then some sessions we will dedicate 100% to Q&A. But definitely throw your question in the chat and we will get it answered for you. That is always there.
Yeah, because we are not going anywhere with the Microsoft support. Also, we opened like 4 tickets, and somebody else picked up, and somebody is not even responding. That's why I thought this is my last call to ask the question. Thank you.
Definitely throw it in the chat, and then if we can't answer it, email me directly, and we'll get you situated.
Can you give me your email?
I'll throw it
address
in the chat for you.
Thank you
Yep.
so much, Gary.
You bet.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Sorry to disturb you.
No, you're good. You're good. Thanks for the
Thank
question. Awesome. So let's jump over to Maggie. So a couple of quick notes about Maggie. She is a product manager driving parts of Windows Autopilot as well as the company portal, DFCI, and the BIOS configuration policy, which I actually email Maggie a lot about this. So that's fun. Number two, she actually started at Microsoft 6 years ago, 1 year after I did, on the Intune for Education team. So she has led a lot of the efforts around the Intune for Education portal. And she's helped a lot of education customers globally for a number of years. So we're always grateful for Maggie for her assistance there. And then a little more personally, she is a mom of 2 toddlers, but manages to fit in some dance practices in her limited time. So that's pretty awesome. Good for you, Maggie. I'm jealous that you actually get some time to yourself with 2 toddlers. So I will kick it over to you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I'm happy to join here. As Garth mentioned, I started in the EDU space, so I still feels near and dear. I can take over from here, right? Okay, while that is coming up,
Yep.
I wanted to ask a quick question. So today we're talking about Autopilot device preparation. I was curious how many of you, show of hands, have tried out Autopilot device preparation already. Actually, it's been out for a few months. So was curious how many have tried it. Feel free to raise your hands. So today we are going to talk about this newest edition, the newest edition of the Windows Autopilot device preparation, which got released to general availability in June of this year. If you haven't tried it out, do try it out. It does have a lot of changes, but it does also have a lot of the familiar Autopilot experiences. So today I'm going to dive deeper into what the initial release includes, what are key things you should know about this as you're preparing and deciding whether this is the right solution for you right now, or you should wait for some of our upcoming features. Now, first I wanted to start with how did this idea of bringing a brand new solution come up? Why did we decide to do it? What were our priorities when we were deciding this? Give you a little bit of a history there. So what we've noticed with customers is today we do have a lot of customers who use and love Windows Autopilot. It is the easiest way to get devices deployed at scale. Another thing we've noticed is many customers who want to go cloud native actually choose to use Windows Autopilot as well, because it is a great addition to the cloud native story. And that's why we also see 80% of our customers are actually using cloud only devices. Another interesting thing when we were digging through our telemetry was that actually the majority of the deployments today are user-driven. So this is, for various reasons, the method that many customers choose. I have personally seen EDU customers also choose user-driven. So that also helped us figure out which flavor kind of Autopilot to prioritize first. And that's why user-driven is what you'll see with the initial release for Autopilot device preparation. Now, it was important for us to take back all of the feedback we've gotten through years of having Autopilot out there, and make sure the new solution is optimized and addresses that key feedback. One of the major reasons we introduced Autopilot device prep in the first place was to be able to support government customers, and the solution does support government customers. But there are other areas where we saw opportunities to innovate and improve from the start. And Autopilot device prep is really a re-architecture of the original Autopilot, and that allowed us to actually, from the start, make sure these things are getting prioritized and we have the right architecture in place to support our also ambitious goals for the future. That's why you'll see Autopilot device preparation as a separate solution right now. You can still use your Windows Autopilot as you know it today, and you can use Autopilot device preparation in parallel. And that was intentional. We didn't want to disrupt people who are using Autopilot today, and the changes we wanted to make were really significant changes. So that's why we started kind of from scratch, started with a brand new version of Autopilot. So what did we decide to prioritize here? What are the key things we wanted to make sure we addressed? We wanted to make it a bit easier to do Autopilot. One thing we've heard today is that it does take quite a bit of learning, quite a bit of training to learn how to do Autopilot. We wanted to make it a bit more intuitive, how it's set up, having things set up in one single place as well, having one single profile as opposed to multiple ones. And then we also wanted to make sure it's a bit more consistent than what it is today. So one thing we hear often, and by the way, is my screen visible? Because for some reason on the screen I still see Garrett's.
You're good, Maggie.
Oh,
You're good.
cool.
Yep.
Cool. Maybe just my laptop then. Yeah, so the other thing is every user seemed to have a slightly different experience. And why that was really is because Autopilot under the covers, it's really using Intune, right? And we check with Intune what configuration is applied, and we just sync it, and it all comes down. It's not done in a very controlled manner today, so that was one thing we wanted to prioritize and think through. How can we make this happen with the new release of Autopilot? And then with all this, we wanted to provide more visibility into what is going on. Autopilot is essentially using majority of Intune's features today, so there are a lot of things going on, a lot of complexity, and wanted to make it easy for IT admin to pinpoint what's going on. We want to get away from people having to read through logs, parse through what each thing means, and just make everything simpler for you, everything available for you remotely. That's why we'll have a brand new report that includes all of this information with a bunch more granular details than what you can see with Autopilot today. And then finally, we still wanted to keep that user-friendly flow where users are just finding it easy to deploy, where students can deploy easily, where your grandmother can deploy easily. Any employee out there without any technical expertise can still grab a device and take it through Autopilot, get it fully configured in an easy way. And now with this, enter device preparation. What is device preparation about? So it's a new Autopilot experience, new profile experience that we're introducing, which will allow you to deploy your configurations efficiently and consistently, and will simplify how you do troubleshooting. We'll provide a lot more information so you can more effectively do troubleshooting remotely. The four priorities we had when we were designing this was we wanted to make sure it's simple, it's fast, observable, and reliable. These are our top goals for introducing this experience. Now, for those of you who have used Autopilot today, you will see a lot of similarities in how things are set up. A lot of the settings might be similar. The user experience, although different, still has the familiar feel. But what are the key differences? What are the top things you should take away? So if you don't remember anything else from this presentation, I want to make sure you remember these three things, because these are brand new things. This is where we've brought innovation and where you can see the major improvements in Autopilot device preparation. So the first thing is a new concept we call enrollment time grouping. Why we imagined this brand new way was really because we wanted to make sure we get away from the latencies that people experience with dynamic groups today. So today, when your device gets enrolled, it will start joining its dynamic group, and by the end of the provisioning process, it might not even be in the right group yet. So we wanted to ensure that the right configuration is delivered from the start of this process. So how enrollment time grouping works is we allow you to add a security group in advance, and we'll make sure during the provisioning process your device gets to the right group and it gets the configuration from this group. We already know the configuration in advance, so this all results in a faster setup. The next important thing is granular reporting. What you're going to see in the new report is near real-time status. I always say, don't only test the setting of the new profile and that experience. Make sure you also try out the reporting. Try to troubleshoot from the reporting only, not having to look through the logs. Let us know how it goes. This is a key area we want to keep innovating in. We want to keep adding more in. We have, from the start, made sure that we have the right reporting in place, reporting that will allow us to also build things like advanced analytics on top of it. And we have provided additional details for you in the report as well. You can see granular status of the apps, of the scripts, to know exactly what happened during the deployment, what the user experience ultimately was. And the final key thing is we are ensuring that everything is delivered in a more controlled way here. What we have done is we have staged how different types of configurations come down. So we're making sure first your MDM policies and your line of business apps get delivered. Then we'll deliver your scripts, and then we'll deliver your line of your Win32 apps, your Windows Get or New Store apps as well. What this gives you is, first of all, you can now actually mix LOB and Win32 apps as well during Autopilot. But the second piece is it ensures that there's no race conditions, that things are coming in the order that they should come in, and the experience that users get is more consistent. Where at this point, this configuration delivered, at that point, the next set of configuration delivered, at next point, the third configuration delivered. That improves the reliability. It will also ensure you see a bit fewer errors and conflicts during the experience as compared to the experience today. And now let's go into demos. I think this is usually the most exciting piece in any presentation. So one thing you see here, let me take a pause here quickly, go back to it here. We have a single profile that you need to configure. So you no longer need to configure Autopilot profiles and enrollment status page profiles separately. All you need to configure here is the device preparation policy, which will include your deployment settings, your out-of-the-box settings, as well as the list of apps and scripts that you want to make sure get delivered during the out-of-the-box experience. So here, a priority for us was making sure that user-driven deployments and users going through user-driven deployments do not have to wait for everything to come down. So we make sure only the top things get down by allowing you to select which are the key things you want to make sure, the critical things you want to make sure are there before the user gets to the desktop, without having to keep the user stranded for potentially a couple of hours if you have a large app downloading. Now, what this new policy looks like. You go into the create flow here, you get this wizard with some additional information, so how to set this up. And then we go into the next very important step of the device group. Remember when I spoke about enrollment time grouping? So this is where this comes in. This device group is a security group. It's a static security group that you create in advance. It doesn't really have to have anything in it. It could be an empty group entirely. You configure all your configurations to that specific group, and during the onboarding process, we make sure your device gets into that group and gets all the configuration from that group. So that way you can specify all the device-based things you want to come on the device in advance without having to pre-upload anything. That's one thing you'll see here. I did not have any pre-upload step like you do with registration. So here I add my Maggie devices group, you know, I have already 2 devices there, but it could also be an entirely empty group. You don't have to actually add any members of that group. And then in the configuration settings page, I'll go and configure my deployment settings. I can set standard or admin user. And then I have some of the out-of-box experience settings. You can specify how long to wait before we time out, what the custom error message will be like. And then the important piece here is we have apps and scripts. Now here you can specify up to 10 apps and up to 10 scripts that you want to get deployed during UBI. Everything else will come down at the desktop. That way, everything critical for that user, so critical security software, gets on the device before the user can access their device. But then also, users don't have to wait for a bunch of time for Office to come down. They can still get to their desktop and maybe get acquainted with, you know, new employee resources. In your case, students can start using their device more sooner, more quickly, without having to wait for absolutely everything to come down. Because yeah, we know how patient students can be as well. So that gets them through the UBI experience faster. Okay, now let's dive deeper again into the enrollment time grouping. I know this is a new concept, so it can be a bit challenging to grasp, but hopefully that visual here might help get into it a little bit more. So how this works is the admin will be configuring their apps and policies to a security group. So they have to create a security group. There's a specific prerequisites. Make sure you reference those as well for that security group. Then they select the apps and scripts they want to install. That is all selected in the device preparation policy. So you add the group in your device preparation policy, then you add which apps and scripts to wait for. And then at that point, Intune will take a snapshot of this configuration. I will pre-calculate everything that needs to get on the device. So when you actually deliver the device to the user, user authenticates, we download the device preparation configuration, and we already know what apps and scripts need to come down to the device. We have that information available. We immediately sync that. We install everything, and then make sure the device becomes a member of the security group, and then get the user to the desktop. And at that point, all the remaining configurations, so remaining apps, scripts, some policies that might not have applied yet, everything else will come down at that point. And I think that might be a good place to take a pause, see if there's any question. I see there have been like questions on other topics in the chat as well. Wanted to see specifically for where I got to so far, if there are any special questions you have.
I don't see any specific questions right now, unless there's a customer that's wants to come off mute and ask something. But I did want to ask. So with user-driven deployments, you know, that's obviously the first type of deployment that we're looking at. What about self-deploy? What about pre-provisioning? Are we looking at including those either sometime soon or in the future?
Yeah, so these are things we are designing for and looking at. Can't share too much detail on what exactly they'll look like when we release or when they'll be released. But yes, we are actively looking into those because we do get a lot of feedback from customers. Hey, I need my pre-provisioning capability because my business really depends on this, or I need self-deploying. So we are actively discussing those, but no timeline to share yet.
Got it. Yeah. Within education, self-deploying is one of those that's probably it's probably used more so in EDU rather than other industries. So it's something that just to be aware of.
Is it primarily because of like users don't have to type in and potentially mess up their credentials?
Yeah, that's part of it. There's also just a lot more shared devices, you know, with cart deployments. There's also lab kiosk scenarios, which you'll obviously find those in other industries too, but it's just more prevalent within EDU.
Yep.
And it looks like Dan's got a question. So where do you assign a given device to the device prep policy? Is that under the assignments tab?
So You don't actually. That's the thing here. So the device preparation policy is assigned to users. We do not know the device's identity in advance. This is not a capability we have yet, and that's not something we need quite yet either. With enrollment time grouping, you don't actually need to assign the profile to the to devices. You can specify the group that you want the configuration to come down from, and we'll deliver the configuration during UBI, even though the device prep policy itself is assigned just to users. It's not assigned to devices. So in that way, you don't really have the extra step of having to register devices like you might use existing Autopilot.
Well, and Maggie, that's also why things are quicker, right?
Yes, in that case, yes, as well, because you don't have to figure out kind of dynamic group memberships, which take a while to calculate. Even though they've gotten faster through the years, it still takes a while to calculate. Here, we know from the start, this is the configuration that gets to this device. I wanted to, so I see a follow-up from Dan here that you always assign based on device and not user. Can you share more why that is and why it might be a blocker for you if you have to assign to user? Because the configuration itself, that's assigned to devices, is the,
Sure, yeah.
the device prep policy in particular, yeah.
Yeah, just come off doing it. I think it's a little bit easier. So we have a split IT organization where it's like we have different IT groups support different users. We also have the issue of personal devices. So I guess I'm not clear on here. Like we have devices that are purchased directly from Lenovo. They get registered as Autopilot devices. But if a user is assigned a enrollment profile, if they have a personally purchased device that has Windows Pro, when they sign in, would they get the same enrollment as if it was a corporate purchase laptop? Like, has it split the difference there of knowing it's a personal laptop or a personal one?
That's a great question. There are a couple of important things I want to call out here. So with device preparation, registration is not something that's supported. In fact, if you want to use Autopilot device preparation, you need to make sure the devices you start with are not registered for Autopilot. Otherwise, they'll just go through the classic Autopilot experience. So that's one key thing there. And then in terms of personal devices, so we also recently released a feature called corporate identifiers for Windows. It's an enrollment. So not unique to Autopilot, but it can be, and it's a good practice to use it with Autopilot device preparation as well, where if you're blocking personal device in your organization, you can upload corporate identifiers. So these are serial number, manufacturer model for all the devices you allow to enroll, and then we make sure only those can enroll. So everything that's not pre-uploaded to corporate identifiers, if a user kind of tries to enroll through Autopilot device prep, their enrollment will be blocked because their device is not known to your organization.
Okay, we did see that they added that because they got confused because the corporate device identifiers existed prior, but they were only for iOS.
Yeah, we recently released for Windows as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is also backported recently to Windows 10 as well. You just have to make sure you have the right builds in place as well, because it was backported in a specific build, right? But it is available on Windows 10 and 11. I see also a hand. I don't know, Matri. I don't know if that's your how you pronounce your name. If you had a question, or if it's just a stale hand from before.
No, I did have a question. I'm actively converting devices from joined AD to just Intune only. And so we do use a lot of device-based policies just because it's faster, we feel like, because it's on the machine immediately. And so you're saying with this, we could migrate to more user-centric groups and still maintain that initial speed because those policies would be there prior to login. Is that correct?
So the configuration itself, you still do that to a device group. It's just your device does not need to be in a device group yet. You are specifying it. Let me go back actually here. So in the profile here, you were specifying a device group. It's a static security group that you have predefined. All your configurations, all your policies and apps, scripts are targeted to that group. The device is not yet in there. What we do during provisioning time is we'll add the device there and we'll get that configuration. So can you still do your targeting of policies, apps, scripts to devices? However, like the assignment of this profile itself is to the user, and that's because we'll use the user authentication information to know which device preparation policy to come down. We don't know about the device in advance, so we wouldn't know which device prep policy needs to come down, but we know the user. But your configurations, so the management of policies and everything else, is still going to be device-based. It's still based on this group. That's why we ask you to put this group here. It's just the policy that's getting assigned to users.
Okay, excellent. That'll give me a chance to try that out without having to rebuild lots of policies. So thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
I see also a question about rename. So you cannot yet use, you cannot yet have rename pre-enrollment. You can rename your devices after the deployment process, but at the time we don't support rename yet. It's something we're looking to enable. We're actively working on, but not something I have an ETA on yet, and not something that's available today. But it's coming. Okay, now let me go into the user experience. So we have updated the user experience as well. The major thing here is we have simplified it even further and are only providing information that the user will care about. So the user will not necessarily understand all the details like what we have with the enrollment status page today. But what will be useful for them is to know how long they might have left or how far along they're in the process. So what we have here is percentage indication of how long it takes. And then one thing we've added, I think since the view was taken, was some basic details on what is happening right now. So apps and scripts are getting delivered at this point. That information is kind of captured as well. But we have significantly simplified because the user does not necessarily need to see all the detailed information. They wouldn't understand everything anyways. And we wanted to make sure they have at least an idea of how far along they are in that process. That's why we added the percentages. And this is, I'm biased to this, but this is my favorite part, the reporting pieces. We have a brand new report, the Windows Autopilot Device Preparation report. It's separate from the existing Autopilot report because the way it's set up, it's completely different. It's using the brand new stack, so it only supports the Autopilot Device Preparation devices. And what you'll see here is way more detail than you used to in the existing report, and it is updating near real time. It's actually updating pretty quickly. You can see at any point where is the user right now, like what phase is happening on their device. And when the deployment completes, you can see how long it took, who provisioned the device, all this detail. You can, from here, you can also like filter various properties. For example, let's say I want to see just things that failed. So let me filter them down. Like we have many failures here because this is our test setup. But you can also search for a specific user. Let's say I want to troubleshoot for a specific user that's calling me with an issue right now. You can also access for each of these deployments additional details here that will help troubleshoot. So you have a link here to the device blade. You have the device IDs. This is useful when when the IT needs to troubleshoot an issue with a specific device. You have the deployment policy that actually apply to the device, and working to add a few more details. We want to have here also the logs automatically pre-uploaded as well. This functionality that's available in Autopilot today, and we're bringing to Autopilot Device Prep soon as well. We'll add a link to be able to get those logs immediately from here, so it's even more convenient. And then we also have the apps and scripts here. So you can see all of the apps that apply to this device. You can see some of them got skipped. This could happen if the app is not applicable. This could happen if the app is not actually targeted to the group, yet it was selected in the profile. You can see which ones of them installed, which ones were selected, and that's why we pulled them in, and which ones were dependent. We also made sure dependencies come down. So it's not only the selected apps. You can have up to 10 selected apps. Those are line of business apps, Win32 apps, or WinGet apps, and 365 as well. But then we'll also pull in any dependencies with that. We want to make sure, of course, your process succeeds and has everything that's needed. And then the same thing for scripts. You can see also the detailed status of the scripts, the PowerShell scripts. You can see I also have links here for everything. So if you wanted to go dig into the specific resource, so into the apps blade or in the scripts blade, you can do that as well. See more granular status here. Note that sometimes the status here might be different from what you see in the device prep report. That usually happens because the status we detected during provisioning. We no longer update this report after provisioning is done. So the app might have maybe gotten some additional dependencies that weren't actually targeted post UBI, and then eventually succeeded. But in our report, we only capture what actually happened during UBI. So you get a clear snapshot of what your users experienced. Let me see if there are any questions so far as well, or in this part. I see Juanita has been helping out a lot with answering many of those.
Yeah, I think just for the recording, one question I want to call out, even though it was already answered by Juanita. Mason had asked, was curious if the privacy settings screen was normal or if there will be a way to hide that in the future, since that didn't come up in standard autopilot deployments as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, so this is something that is expected today. Today, we don't have the ability to skip pages in UBI yet. It's something we're working to add in the future as well. For that to work, we'll need to kind of know the identity of the device in advance. So working to see how we can implement this functionality as well for outbound device prep. But right now, you cannot suppress any of the pages yet.
Thanks. And I think that's the only question since the last time we went through those.
Right. So as a quick recap, I wanted to highlight what's available today. Although not relevant maybe to you, Autopilot device prep is available in government clouds, generally available there. So that's one thing we like to highlight, even though I know that's not very relevant for EDU sector. It is only available for Windows 11 right now, and Microsoft Entra joint as well. No plans to bring it to Windows 10 or hybrid. So it is going to be cloud native only, Windows 11 only. You can still, if you're using hybrid, you can still use the existing Autopilot support. As I mentioned a couple of times, it's user-driven only today. We are actively looking into how we can bring the functionality from the other modes as well. And then key thing to know, you can select the apps and scripts that you want to deliver during UBI. You cannot select policies yet. This is something we might be adding to in the future. No timelines to share yet. And then you'll see the new user experience, and you'll see the detailed reporting. We want to make sure the report is pretty detailed, even in our very initial release. We do plan to have to iterate over this, add improvements over time as well. So what you see now is just the initial release. We're just the original Autopilot took quite a while to get to the place it is today. So be on the lookout for new features coming out. We'll gradually add more. It is our goal to have enough in place so that you can confidently move from Autopilot today to Autopilot device preparation. But it's taking some time, and we know it might get some time until everyone can adopt this yet. I do urge you to try it out. It does have quite a few improvements, even if you won't see all the features that Autopilot has today. Autopilot today has quite a lot, as you know. You will see some improvements in there. You will see the improved reporting. You can have more flexibility to the types of apps you apply during UBI. So I do urge you to try it out. Let us know your feedback. Let us know what additional you might need. We want to make sure what we're building in the future is the right investment, the right thing for all our customers. So I'd love to hear what feedback you might have from an EDU point of view.
Yeah, and on that note, Maggie, if there's a form or some way that you would like us to kind of consolidate some of that information, we can send this out to the group here and get some EDU specific feedback. So feel free to create something, or we can collaborate on something and we can get it sent out so we can really give you some tangible evidence that helps you build what our EDU customers need. So happy to help you there.
That would be great. That's a great idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can share that.
Well, I think with that, thank you, Maggie. Great presentation. Thank you for demonstrating that. I know we had a lot of questions last semester on the new Autopilot device prep and should I be using it? When should I be using it? Does it make sense to use it? And I think you got a lot of those questions answered. So definitely appreciate the time today and looking forward to the upcoming release of this. And we'll be sure,
it is released in its current version,
Yep.
but upcoming improvements,
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll be sure to get some more feedback for you guys. And I think that's part of what we want to aim specifically for this year from the EDU community is getting more of your feedback funneled back up to the product group. So Maggie, just definitely appreciate you coming on, and Juanito for the support. And with that, we will conclude Endpoint Office Hours. And if anyone has any questions specifically, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And we will get this recording posted on YouTube here shortly. And we hope you have a great Tuesday, and we will see you in a couple of weeks on September 3rd. So thanks again, Maggie. Great job.
Thanks all.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot, guys.
Maggie. Thank you,
See you
Juanita.
guys.